And what brought me to wanting to follow my heart? Let's begin there. I want to take this conversation a little deeper than that short video. One of the reasons I began to go away from everything I had been doing is because it wasn't working. I reached a point in my life where I was very unhappy, I was resentful, I was angry, and all of that was permeating into the rest of my life, and I could see that. And I could recognize where I was in the cycle, and I didn't necessarily want to get out for a long time because, wherever you went and talked to people, it just seemed like everybody was there. So it was hard to even try to envision what life would look like differently. When we go around and think about the conversations you have and the people you hang around, a lot of people just stand around bitching and moaning and complaining. And then we join in on that, and then we go home and we take that home with us, and we might, act a certain way with our spouse because now we've had all these troubling conversations all day. So I started really questioning my relationships, the people I was hanging around, the things I was speaking about, and I started to change that. And slowly over time, things got better, but still they weren't where I wanted them to be. And it was because I was so logical, and everything I did, it was like, well, to get 2 is 1 + 1, and that is the only way. There's no other way to get 2. And life is not always math. The good thing is we can be so curious, and there's a million ways to do, one thing. So I started to question, okay, this has not worked for the last 5-10 years. What else can I change? How else can we do it to bring joy into our family? And one thing was, last year was the first time that we purchased a home. And shortly, I would say 4 months into it, I no longer was happy in this home. Here we are with the house, with the pool, the cars, everything. And happiness was the furthest thing away. And that's not to say that there wasn't happy moments. There was, but that fulfillment wasn't there. And the truth is, because we were reaching and trying to get goals that weren't ours and that didn't feel close to us, and in a sense, personal. They weren't personal at all. It was like, this is the American dream. This is what people do. This is what people strive for. Let's do that. So when we reached that point of, he wasn't happy, I wasn't happy, it came down to, we had a separation. We didn't know it was going to lead to divorce or not, but we were willing to work on it to not lead to divorce, because we knew that our unhappiness was coming from ourselves and not necessarily the other person. So we both we basically made a commitment to do our inner work and see what would happen in the future. So that was, one of the big pushes. This was September, October timeframe. By December, we had purchased the RV, and we made the decision to sell the house because I was like, what better way than to discover ourselves, than to let go of all these expectations, all these schedules. At the time, our kids were in sports. We were constantly on a schedule, running around, doing things, and just completely unattached from this, life we had created, and kind of start with a fresh slate and say, what's there. And so in the past year, we've essentially had last 10 months, we haven't had a schedule. We haven't really had any structure to our lives. And it has allowed so much, softness to just kind of go about our days and figure it out every day, and figure out what is it that we really want. And one thing we realize is we don't want to do nothing. Doing nothing isn't fun either. It's good if you have to decompress, if you lived a very high stressful life or job. It is nice to have that time frame to decompress and kind of do nothing, and it might take 2-3 weeks or months. But at some point, you're going to get bored and you're going to want to do something. And that's kind of when the gears start turning again. It's where do I want to go? Where do I want to take up my life? What do I want to do? And I was still very lost as far as all of that. And I, started looking to tools and systems to give me more direction. And this is where I started diving back into human design. And then I learned about gene keys and using these systems and astrology of kind of starting to put the pieces together. And what I love about all these systems is it doesn't show you your path. It doesn't tell you, okay, this is what you are, go. Like, that's it. It's easy. You know how to get there. It does, in a sense, like, tell you who you're meant to become, but no one can predict your journey, right? That's yours. And in this life, you have free will. So it depends on where you choose to take your journey, how you get to that point. So once I started having more clarity as far as those things in my life, and a big part of that is like, well, don't you know who you are? Yes and no. So many of us have been conditioned by just growing up, the people we were around, the neighborhoods we grew up in. And so much of that isn't really us. Although we feel like it is, we think it is, it's not. So a lot of what these systems and frameworks gave me was permission to really be myself, to really take a look deeper than what was on the surface of who I was or who I am at my core versus who I thought I was to this point. So that's where like following your heart comes in, is once you remove all these layers of things that other people have put on you, of, you know, what society has put on you, your parents, your childhood, your neighborhood, wherever, like all of that, once you remove all that, what is the light that's truly at the core of your heart, and what does that light want to do? And my big thing with following your heart is, if you're following your passions, if you're following something that is a part of you, you're never going to get tired. There's never going to be a lack of energy, because it's who you are. It's who you came here to be. You're always going to want to do that. And one thing, you know, in human design, if you know anything about human design, there's 4 main types. And projectors, I'm a projector, it's said that we don't have a lot of energy. Like, that's the generators or the manifesting generators. But it's not that we have no energy, is that we don't have the energy to do the things that aren't for us. So that gave me the framework to really narrow in on like, what fires me up? Where am I passionate? Where is it that I can talk for hours and hours and hours and not get tired? And once I started noticing, like, it's true, yes, on the things I don't want to do, like, it's like, good luck. It's like moving a rock. I just don't want to get to it. But in the things that light me up, I'm like, I'm all in. Let's do this all day. So it, you know, once again, what human design has done for me is to show me that I do have the energy, I do have the willpower to do these things. I just have to be very clear on where I put it, because if I put it in the wrong place, then yes, I'm going to be drained quickly and I'm not going to be able to do it. And then generators are said, you know, like, they're the energy force. They're the ones who can do it all. But even generators, if you're not doing what's meant for you, you're also going to burn out. All of us, like, we're all here to do different things. We're all here to serve a purpose. And it's not working the same job for 40 years and then retire and die. That's not what we came here to do. We came here to inspire. We came here to support. We came here to create communities, to uplift one another. And I am like fully in on following my heart, because I want that to be my passions. I want that to be my energy every day. That is how I want to lead in the world, because this is what I'm teaching my children. I have 4 young kids and they know their human designs, and I'm slowly teaching them little bits of themselves and parts of themselves, because it is so important to me that they start learning this now, and not when they become adults to now have to decondition it. And granted, everyone's conditioned no matter what. It's just part of the human experience. But having that awareness is something that many of us were not taught. We didn't grow up with that awareness. And in that awareness is that we're able to create that space to see what's really ours and what is coming from somewhere else. And that's something I've had to practice as I'm older, is to come into that awareness and create that space. So what I want to give my children is that knowledge, that wisdom from a young age of like, hey, if something isn't feeling in alignment with you, even if it's me, your mom telling you, take a step back and say, hey mom, like, something isn't feeling right about this. And I said, communicate that, like, start speaking that at a young age, because everything isn't meant for you, and that's okay. So one way that we can reach this point is start questioning, like, where are you? Are you happy? Are you truly happy where you are right now? Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? Or is this a means to the ends? And even then, like, question that. Is Why do you feel the need to do something that you hate? Is it really going to get you where you want? Because a lot of what this practice is about and inner work is the vibration we're constantly in. And if you're not in a vibration of gratitude, of happiness, of pure joy, then you're going to attract the opposite. The only way we can attract that into our lives is to be in that place ourselves. So if you're going to do something that, let's say, you don't want to, you have to really work on reframing your mind and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this with gratitude because this is going to take me to my next step. Not, oh man, like I have to do this because if I don't, then I'm not going to get X, Y, Z. It's not the mindset you want to go into doing these things. So work on your mind, work on your thoughts, and every day, whenever you have those negative thoughts come into your mind, reframe them. Say, you know what, I'm going to work on, when I have a negative thought, I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to switch it around and think about something positive. Why is it here? What is it teaching me? What is the reason for it being here? And I had to go a lot through that when I found out about my oldest daughter, third child, when she was diagnosed with her brain tumor. I went into the darkness for a bit there, and I had to pull myself out, because after a while it's like, well, am I not going to be a present mother to my other 3 children? Like, what kind of person am I going to be if I'm just in the darkness all the time, suffering that my child is going through this experience? And it was through, a couple of spiritual teachers that reminded me, like, she chose this for herself. This is her path. Like, there is no reason why she's suffering. Like, she chose this to be part of her life, and this is her path. And that's when I was like, you know what? Absolutely. Even children, like, we see them as children, and it pains us when this is happening to a child of ours. But at the end of the day, they're souls, and we have no idea how many lifetimes they lived and what they chose to accomplish in this life. So when they are born this way, it isn't because they're suffering. It isn't because something's wrong. It's because they've chosen this for themselves. And I, as a mother now, am so grateful that she chose me. There's a reason why she chose me to be her mom through the situation, and she chose her dad and her siblings and everyone to be here for her, because she knew we were the right people to do this with. So instead of me getting stuck in that she's suffering, that something's wrong with her, that, this is something for the lifetime, now I am seeing it with gratitude. I am thankful that she chose me. I am thankful that she is doing what she needs to do to whatever reason she needs to, live this out. And I am here in full support of her. And, something that my husband and I have been talking about lately is how, she's different. She's not your average 4-year-old. If you try to have conversations with her, that doesn't really happen, but she's very smart. She knows what's going on, but she's not fully connected into this world. And I told my husband the other day, many people will see that as it's something that has to get fixed. She should be going to therapies and this and that because she doesn't talk like you and me, and she doesn't talk like kids her age. And I said, what about we're seeing this all the wrong way? And truly what it is that she has access, and she is connected to other consciousness, to other realms of this world, of this universe, that normal, humans like us have no idea how to access and have no idea how to be connected to that. And I said that is the beauty of being a child like her. Like, she is very much in the present moment. And all the suffering in this world comes from not being in the present moment. It's always because you're in the past or you're in the future. And I said, she's always happy, and if she's upset, it's just what's happening right then in that moment. But 5-10 minutes later, when it's over, that's it. It's done. While we adults are here suffering things that happened to us 10 years ago because we haven't transmuted it, because we haven't alchemized it, because we haven't processed it in our body, out of our body, and felt that. And it's like, that's what I see and what I'm learning from her, is that if she has a problem, if there's something that she doesn't like, she processes it right there in that moment, gets it out, and then it's done. And it's over, and she moves on. And life goes on. And that's what I'm learning from her, is How can I deal with my crap, my things that are going on with me right in the moment and get it out so I can move on instead of staying stuck in these cycles that we're victims of everything that's happening to us? So take a look at children, take a look at what children are doing and emulate them, because they are so smart and they are so much more connected, where we have forgotten where we come from and who we truly are. Children are closer to that than we are in this moment. And that is what I've learned through this journey of watching my children, of being a mother, of staying at home, of going through my own things, is let's be in the present moment, let's be in gratitude, and let's follow our hearts.